opinion, Jake. The tribe has spoken.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Aw, fuck you too, sweetie.
I'm JJ, one of the original Tribe of Nerds members. You can catch me on Marvel, Pokemon, and other gaming podcasts.
What up? It's Josh, resident superhero nerd, but I also dabble in the occasional super villain as well.
Some may know me as the Chaos Gremlin, but really I'm just Joe King.
Pikachu, use Volt Tackle! Good job, Pikachu!
On the Tribe of Nerds.
Catch up with him. I don't want anything to happen to the only trained physician on the island, so go back. Be the doctor. Let me be the hunter.
Come on.
I hate him.
I'm known as something of a warrior myself.
He did the Green Goblin line.
You've been there for weeks. You could have taught anyone else these skills, dick.
Not yet.
No. Jack! Jack, come on! Come on! Come on! Come on!
And this was a mid-season finale, so we had to go a whole month before we got the next episode. Just so
Really?
you know.
Wow. All right. I thought Charlie was dead for yeah.
We all did.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. Kristin, Michael, Kevin, Gregg, and I are here to talk about episode 11 of Lost. And what a very deep episode. Did not expect it to go the way it did. What are your guys' thoughts on this episode?
So good. So good. This is like an all-time classic. It's like so quick-paced. It's crazy.
Yeah, there like you mentioned, it's deep. This is such a episode where there's so much happening. Again, it's just like our last episode. It's jam-packed. So again, people buckle up. This is probably gonna be a long podcast, but yeah, there's a lot to uncover here.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how to process what ends up happening, or one of the things that happens in the end that, so someone almost died. So yeah.
I mean, hopefully they've seen it. We can say it's Charlie.
Yeah. Charlie almost died. So.
I just love it. I'm a Jack. I love Jack. Like, this is some of the things about Jack that I love. Like, and then just the other stuff that's going on the island. And like who is Ethan? What is this man doing? What is happening? How did he know? Did he know to make like Claire scream so that they would go in a certain way just to like separate them so he could beat up Jack? Like, there's just so much. Like, I just love it. And then the end, what is that metal thing that they found in the ground? That they found by accident. That Locke had already walked over. Locke, the expert tracker. Fuck you, Locke. Locke, the expert tracker, walked over to this metal thing and didn't even notice it. Didn't notice it till he threw the flashlight. Apparently, his flashlight throwing skills are not as good as his knife throwing skills because he misses and it falls and makes a metallic bang.
Unless it was deliberate.
I just love it. I just love it.
Yeah. It's just a lot. It's a lot.
We're all here's the other thing that, like, as we were watching, like, all of it, like, we're all just still like sitting in silence. Even now, just like getting like the start of this, we're all just still like, this is the episode that you kind of just sit there afterwards and go, what
happened?
what
We're shook.
yeah you're
Yeah.
just
We've
there's
already
the
seen
shock
it,
of
and we're still shook.
yeah like I mean yeah it's I think again like we've talked about this so many times every episode of Lost is fantastic but like wow like mind-blowing where you just sit here in silence.
And the episode was so captivating. Like it seemed like it was only like 20 minutes. When the Lost logo came up, I'm like, what the hell? Already?
Yeah. Well, I just didn't expect them because I really thought they had killed off Charlie, like for a moment. And I'm just like, did they really just kill this character after only 11 episodes? And
Oh, I know that's what you thought because I looked at the screen to see your reaction.
I think we all did. We all did. I mean, I think too, like there's so we bring this up a lot, but there's so many emotions from so many characters. Like we're gonna dive deep into this during the episode, but I mean it's not just us having those emotions. You see these other characters really going through the the ringer in this episode. So yeah. Kevin, you also mentioned that this was a mid-season.
This is a mid-season finale. So it was, I think I saw the date was December 8th, and it didn't come back till January 5th. So there was a month between episodes. So like we left this and then we went Christmas, New Year, like
Yep.
had to wait a while.
Yeah. Which like damn you, Lost, for doing that to us in this original like our watch. I'm also very envious of people like Jake or anybody that's now getting into Lost that they can just go from episode to episode because I think that's the other part about Lost that even a week in between episodes you're like, how am I going to wait? How can I wait for this next episode? So the fact that they ended this one the way that they did and we had to wait a month is just kudos to
And like thinking back to, I was in college. So if it came back January, like the first or second week in January, I didn't go back to school until Martin Luther King Day. So that's like the third week. So I probably also had to wait because my parents had already hopped off the technology train. So there was no DVR at my parents' house. So I had to wait to get back to my apartment in college to get to the DVR to watch it.
Yeah. Anything else that we want to just briefly touch on before we really dive deep into this episode?
No, get your flippers.
Let's get into it.
Here we go. All right. So, of course, we start this episode. We had a recap, but then it brings us right back to them. Of course, they didn't know where Ethan was. So it brings us kind of, I think this might be the only flashback that we see in the Lost series that ends as the new, like in the real time. Like it ends and we go right into the start of it of them going, Hurley's still over there like, he wasn't on the plane. No. Like all the panic is setting in now. And Jack is still like trying to take care of Saeed, but like coming to the realization, what have we just realized here? So then he's like, wait, where's Ethan? Anybody know where Ethan is? Like, what's going on? Like all this stuff. To when they're like, where's Charlie? Where's Charlie? And Locke's like, he went after Claire. So they take off into the jungle. They're like running to the beach. They got it like because that's where Claire was headed. She was heading to the beach. She was over Jack and his crap. And she took off. So and Charlie went after her. So they're taking off like a bat out of hell to get to the beach to find out where Charlie and Claire are. Obviously mid-run, Locke looks over and sees Claire's bag, to which they then look and see okay, listen, you can roll your eyes about Locke for a lot of things, but not this episode. Sit down.
We'll find a way. Don't worry.
But with that, we do see that there are signs of, he's like, oh, there's some footprints here. There looks like there was a struggle. Here's some broken things over here. And to which, Jack starts screaming like, Claire, Charlie, and Locke's like, bro, shut up. Like if we don't know what happened here. And if we need to have like the element of surprise, shut up. Like stop yelling. And so,
There's a savage on the island.
Right. We don't know what's happened here. I mean, we just found out this dude wasn't on the plane. Now we have 2 people missing. And to which Jack's like, how is one person taking 2 people off? So it kind of, starts to get to the point where they're like trying to figure out just the massive amount of what just probably happened here in this moment. They want to keep going. Locke's like, no, we need to stop. We need to regroup. We need to go back to the caves. Like, we got to get a search party. We got to like get a plan in motion. Jack's like, no, we got to keep going. Like, we got to go now. And he's like, okay, you go right ahead. I'm going to go get a search party. and Jack runs off aimlessly into the jungle here. And Locke goes back to the caves. He gets Kate and Boone. Of course, Shannon's there being her stupid Shannon self, being like, what are you going to help? What are you bringing to the table? Shut up, Shannon. What are you bringing to the table? But also, all right, I'll stop because Michael hates when I go off on Claire or on Shannon. But anyway, so they take off. Michael, of course, comes out with Walt. Hey, we want to help. Locke's like, I don't need you. Go somewhere else.
No, I don't need the dog. I don't need the dog to help track. No.
He's not a bloodhound, okay? He's a freaking
Tracking dog.
Whatever.
Anyway, so he, of course, Michael's taken aback by this. He's like, well, fine, I'll search my own search party, make my own thing. He's like, we're going north, you go south, whatever. And so Locke, Kate, and Boone take off after Jack. And of course, meet up with Jack because he's been running around in circles because he's fueled by like, I've got to figure this out. But again, didn't have the plan, which is why they were able to catch up with him and kind of regroup there in that moment. I'm going to pause here because there's a lot. I mean, just in that moment, there's so much happening. Jake, where were you at here in this like big reveal? We from last episode, we know that Ethan was like with Claire and Charlie. Now all of a sudden the bag's there. What were your initial reactions here?
I was wondering like what all went down. Like obviously, they were taken, and so that like once we got there, and I'm just like, this isn't good. And I was hoping like by the end of the episode they'd find both of them, but of course that's not what happened. And you gotta take the show somewhere at a certain point, and this was taking the show somewhere. Yeah, no, I just hope that they'd be okay. One of them almost wasn't okay, so yeah, it was just crazy to wait in anticipation and then almost get like a huge shock. So
yeah. Anybody else on just this opening? It seems like nothing really happened, but so much happens. That's why it's like, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I have to get this in because
okay,
of course,
first of all, let's just stop you with the Locke thing.
No, listen, here's the problem with Locke. Locke, once again, is selfish, and it's all about the glory for him because Michael wants to help. And what does he do? Sends him on a wild goose chase in the opposite direction. You have an able-bodied person here who's willing and able to help. And what do? You get rid of him because you want the glory for yourself. I'm going to find them. I'm John Locke, and I know everything. And I'm going to find them and save the day. F you, John Locke. And I mean, listen, we weren't following Jack. We don't know how much of a circle he was going in. Maybe he just said you were going in circles because he wanted Jack to feel bad.
You're so grasping at straws. Like, it's crazy. Locke caught up to him. Jack went running off in the middle of nowhere, and Locke found him in like 5 minutes. Jack didn't know what he was doing. Locke did.
Jack never said he knew what he was doing.
Listen,
run off into the middle of nowhere. You're not helping.
I'll be right there with you because here's the thing. At least my hatred towards Shannon is for good reason. Like now you're just hating for no reason, especially in this.
No, I actually do not like that Locke sent Michael in the wrong direction. Like you knew they weren't that way. Like, but you just got rid of this. Like for what? Just so that you could like be the leader of this little group. Like no, if you're a real leader and you really want to save these people, get everybody in the cave who can walk, get them together, and lead them. Like, don't.
You're missing a major point here, though, that I think needs to be brought up because, again, Locke was telling Jack to stop screaming. They don't know what happened here. They know that there's a struggle here. They don't know what they're about to walk into. So you want to bring a giant 46-person group traipsing off into the jungle that we know we've seen whatever is moving the trees. We don't know. We found out this dude wasn't on the plane and now he's kidnapped 2 people. Like, I feel like massive 46.
The alternative
like, you might as well, like, put a bullhorn. We're coming for you, Ethan. Like, no.
The alternative is the thing that he wants.
You are wrong.
That he wants is him and Boone, so he can just do his own thing, and he just wants just the 2. What's going to happen if this man could kidnap Charlie and Claire? Why can't he kidnap Locke and Boone? Like, if you want to be the leader, you want to like get everybody to live on this island forever and happiness, whatever your plan is, John Locke. Then you need to like actually be a leader and like, yes. Get everybody to do it. If there's one guy who is kidnapping 2 people, you need more than 2 people to help. And if there's more than one guy, you need more than 2 people when there's more than one guy kidnapping people. So yes,
He
you
did get
needed
more
more
than
people.
2 people. He got Kate and Boone. You were so unbelievably wrong in this moment. And I'm calling you out on this. I don't care. We can sit here and argue this all day long. And also, when Jack wanted to separate, he said, no, stick together because a dude just kidnapped 2 people. We have 4 people. We're not. So again, your hatred for Locke is so wrong.
And what did Locke do? Locke went in the wrong direction.
Listen, we're going to let you stew.
Kristin, there were 2 sets of tracks. What,
Right.
you're just going to not follow one of them?
Correct.
What if they were right? They
the tracks
checked
had a
both. They were
marker.
looking. 2 people are missing.
We're not
There's
even
2
at
separate
that
tracks.
section, and we're sit down,
Because
Kevin. You are so
Locke
wrong
sucks.
on that.
Locke sucks.
Oh my God, we're not even at that section yet. Good Lord, help us in
Locke
this
sucks.
recap. Michael, Greg, anything that your guys' thoughts were in this first opening? Not the 5,000 down the line that we're gonna get to because somebody's in a massive rant. Anything in this first opening scene?
I did like that we got like the A team springing into action and sprinting off to find our missing people. And there's some really good interactions between Jack and Locke in these early moments of like where they're trying to work out what's going on. And he's like, "Do you think it was Ethan?" It's like, "It certainly feels like it was Ethan." And Locke also being, angry at himself that, he went hunting with this guy. He was like, I thought he was fine. And so he's trying to make it right, Kevin. Oh, I can't.
We can't with Kevin. So we're gonna mute him.
Listen, I want you to know I'm never gonna like Locke.
That's fine, but we've got to at least hear him out and listen to him.
Right, you have to at least give credit where credit is due. I gave Shannon, of all people, credit the last episode. You can't just sit here.
We all gave Shannon credit the last episode.
Anyway.
But that is like maybe that's the thing that he wants to be the one to fix it because he feels like he should have realized this about Ethan sooner. But like to me, it just does come off as very like no, I'm in charge and this is how we're doing it. And it's not actually about helping Claire and Charlie. It's about him proving himself. And I don't like that.
Can I make a quick
theory
on Locke?
Please.
So he was in the wheelchair. He was a beta by default because of that. Now he's on the island trying to be an alpha, surrounding himself with betas, with Walt and everybody else that Boone. He didn't want Michael there because that's another alpha to deal with. He's already got to deal with Jack when he finds him. Like that's my theory behind that.
100%. That's a great theory.
Yeah, I do think he does like to be in charge. Like, I'm not defending like everything Locke does. I think he's a complex character, but I think you've at least got to like give him the attention of listening to what he's saying and not just, eye roll over him.
He's gonna do it anyway. It's fine.
Michael did have a good point about him. Michael in the show, not you.
Yeah.
So jumping into our first flashback, obviously this is a Jack episode. We're diving a little bit deeper into Jack. Also, listen, here's where my somewhat hatred for Jack comes in because like we've already seen part of your story. I want to see other people. Let's move on. But we are in another Jack episode to give us a little bit more of insight to Jack and kind of why this mission and this whole episode is going to be kind of important. So we open this flashback with him working on somebody on a table and her just crashing and not doing well. And then obviously flatlines. He's trying to save her. He's CPRing. He's doing the paddles. He's doing everything. And it's not working. So of course you hear off in the distance, call it. And Jack's he's just going to town. He's not listening to anything. You hear it again and we pan over the camera and it's his dad. We've known from past flashbacks and things that he's had some issues with his dad. And so he comes back to him and he says, "You call it." And I kind of love this moment between them. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, no, you call it. Don't tell me what to do. And it's just kind of like,
messed this up. You do it.
Right. But it's kind of still like that, like rebellious, like son, you know what I mean? Or kid away from their parent kind of thing. And I just kind of love that a little bit. So then, of course, we see him call it, and then, we see a nurse placing a sheet over this woman who's now passed away. And we get into this fight with Jack and his dad, and he's like, the nurse called me in, and, we find out that his dad was at lunch, and Jack was upstairs, and so he has to
liquid lunch.
He has to throw that dig at his son of like, well, if You were right upstairs. Why did they call me away from my nice lunch? And Jack comes right back at him with, well, how many drinks did you have at lunch, Dad? Because the nurse told me your hands were shaking. And of course, Dad's like, what nurse? No, I'm not selling out my, like, my mole in the hospital here. Like, get out of here. So it's just, again, we know that, like, from previous flashback, especially when, Jack's mom, when his dad has gone missing, she's like, after what you've done, you need to, like, make this right. Go bring your dad home. So now we're starting to piece a little bit together here that him and his dad are obviously at different ends here. Dad's been drinking. We've seen him been drinking even when Jack was a kid, came home, bloodied up from a fight. But it's impacting his work. Jack's calling him out. He's like, you killed this woman because of your drinking. What were your guys' thoughts? Jake, obviously I want to start with you. Of seeing this kind of interaction, getting more of that interaction that we got little pieces of those interactions with his dad in the previous flashbacks. But what were your thoughts of, like, really now starting to get into detail here?
I like that it kind of is giving us more of, like, Jack's moral compass throughout. I mean, it's showing what he's willing to do and not willing to do. He doesn't want to compromise certain things. And we're going to see by the end of the episode, he's going to end up doing the right thing, even if it is going against family. So yeah, I think that's the important piece of why we're shown this in this episode. And obviously then it's going to impact that Jack is not going to quit undoing the right thing, because he's going to try to save a life, and he does end up succeeding in saving Charlie's life. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think he has this, like, deep ingrained thing in him that he just needs to do everything that he can. It's like he was willing to keep going with that girl, and he didn't want to call it. And I mean, I don't know, I'm not a medical person, but Kate wants him to stop later, and he doesn't, and he manages to save Charlie. Like, mate, what if he did keep going? Like, who knows? He was stopped. I think it's just something in him where he just needs to do everything that he can so he can live with himself.
Right.
And with these flashbacks as well, like Kristin said, this is the first one that we're getting of a character we've already had the flashback of. I remember being surprised by that when I first watched. Like, we were expecting we're going to have a different character each episode and not doubling up as much. I'm glad they did, because I think this needed to be a Jack episode, but were you surprised by that?
Yeah. Was I surprised by that?
Yeah.
Oh, a little bit, but, like, I think I viewed Jack as, like, the protagonist of the show. So I mean, it's not surprising that we're gonna get another Jack episode before, like, a couple of the other characters. I assume we're gonna get that soon. But but yeah, I think it's not surprising, and so I'm interested to, from that, like, how Jack's journey is going to continue to evolve as we go. And, like, because it is kind of a hero's journey at this point. So,
I would also like to point out, this is my one. There are certain pet peeves that, like, we already talked about the caves in another episode. This scene of when they're putting the sheet over the lady that has passed away, that is so inaccurate. They cannot actually remove the breathing tube until the autopsy, because it has to be proven that, like, there was a tube in the throat and all these things. So that, like, them taking this out, it's like, oh, and I mean, they're like, he hasn't even taken his bloody gloves off. That is so beyond accurate of how this would have happened in real life. So I get it. Like, I mean, it's TV, but, like, it's also my biggest pet peeve with, like, we have, like, NICU babies. Like, if there's a baby born too early and it's just randomly sitting in, like, this, like, crib. No, they're in, like, a whole isolate. So medical stuff needs to be, like, researched more, and just not in Lost, but any show, because they always mess it up. They always mess it up.
Yeah.
So I do have to point that out, but to neither here nor there. Greg, any thoughts on?
I remember my first time watching this episode. I was extremely disappointed that it was a Jack episode, only because there's other people that still hadn't had a chance.
Right.
And I'm still feeling that way watching it again. Like, yes, it needed to be a Jack episode, but it sucked that it needed to be a Jack episode.
Yeah.
I love Jack. I was not disappointed by that, and I'm still not disappointed by it now. I like that we're seeing the very complicated relationship with Jack and his dad. Like, that he's like, yeah, Jack, you need to sign this. Like, it's going to ruin my career if you don't. Like, that whole thing, like, because we had an idea, like we said the last time there was a Jack episode, he's like, literally, he was on the flight to bring his dad to the funeral from a trip that he didn't know he was bringing his dead dad back from when the plane crashed. Like, very complicated emotions, and like to explore that more. And it's good. It's good character telling, good storytelling, good character building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with Greg. I know that this has to be a Jack episode because of where the storyline is going, but I know when I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, we already know. Like, I want to see somebody else, because just previously we got a Claire one, right? So like, it seemed like we were going to be getting new things from new characters every episode, and then to come back to Jack, I kind of was frustrated, but I again completely understood why that was a Jack episode. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, I thought the end of last episode might lead into we're gonna get more on Ethan. I thought that's where it was probably going to lead, but then it didn't. So I would guess we're gonna get some more on our antagonist here, but we'll have to see, I guess.
for sure. Anything else about the flashbacks before we move on? Cool. All right. So, obviously back at the caves, Michael is all kinds of pissed off at Locke right now. We already know that they don't get along. But he's sitting there talking to Hurley. Of course, Walt joins, and he's like, "You need to listen to Locke. Like, he knows a lot, and like, you're being an idiot right now." Of course, Michael sets him off. He's so mad. He's like, "You're staying with Hurley." I have to point this out because this is probably one of my favorite. It's not even like made to be known, but it's, if you're watching Hurley, like, look, like, he's not even like in main focus. He just like looks up like, "I'm watching your kid. What? When did I become the babysitter?" And I just laugh at that because it's not even like a point of the scene in that moment, but it's just such a good, again, where we're talking about Lost, being able to pull in these details of, you know what I mean? Like,
they're
like, you're
all in
with
character
Hurley
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, like, he's like, "You're staying with Hurley," and out, like, on the corner of it, he's like, "Bro, what?" You know? I just love
You already established that son's the babysitter. Go ask her.
Right, like, right. He's like, "What happened here?" So yeah, I mean, it's not very much of a major moment, but it just to bring in again that Lost is really great with the details. So of course Michael takes his little group off to go south. We come back into the jungle here with Locke, and now they're starting to mark their territory. Of course, Jack is very frustrated. He's like, "Why are we taking a break? What's going on?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm taking a break. Like, bro, sit down, calm down. We need to regroup. We lost the trail. We need to take a minute to like really start to think out where we're going here. That's why I'm marking the tree. We need to be able to figure this out." Kate clocks Jack and his little attitude problem that he has in this episode, and is like, "Hey, bro, come on, let's talk for a second." And he's like, "I feel guilty." This is where we see that moment of him being like, "I didn't listen to her. I sent her to the beach that allowed Ethan to do this." And like, you can see this kind of turmoil that he's dealing with. And she's like, "Okay, I understand you're sad, but stop being a dick." Locke's trying to help. And then all of a sudden we hear screaming like, "Jack, Jack." So they run back over. They have now found the L. And it was great that they brought that back in the recap. We had seen Charlie writing those things on his fingers. So they've now found the L, and they're like, "Oh yes, okay, he's leaving these for us. We have to take off, and this is where we're going." And then, we see back at the caves too. I'm going to kind of skip over the next part of where we get to the A, because I feel like that's a very like major moment here. And another side kind of thing going on that's not too important, but needs to be mentioned. Back at the cave, Sawyer's coming up there. He sits there with Walt. They find out that, he's like, "Ethan, who? Who's Ethan?" I love these moments because he's like, so like just living his life at the beach. He has zero idea what's happening out there.
Doesn't care.
Again, I love Sawyer. I know you guys are sick of me saying that, but I just think it's so funny. It's just so funny to me that he's so out of the element. He's like, "I was just down at the beach, sitting there with my shirt off, reading a book, smoking a cigarette, whatever, and you guys have all this drama up here? Like, what's going on?" And so, you just have kind of him and Sawyer, or Walt and Sawyer, having this moment of like back and forth. He's like, his name was on it. He's like, "Do you ever think about him lying about his name?" Which, we had that moment with him and Kate earlier in Confidence Man. And then, of course, Walt's like, "Well, yeah, there's others on the island here." And he's like, "What makes you think that?" And he's like, "Well, Saeed said," and he's like, "Saeed's back?" oh no, we're gonna have moments here. To which of course he goes in there and acts like he's going to do some massive, revenge here. Which he probably would have if Saeed had not brought up the fact that he found the French woman. Oh, wait, the French woman? Now I remember this moment. Like, let's sit down and talk about this. And now I forgot about I was about to kill you. And Saeed's able to kind of give him some information to catch him up on what we've already seen in some past episodes. So not really worth like major talk about, but I wanted to throw that in there before we get to where we separate and things like that. So anybody thoughts on kind of the Sawyer and the Walt and all of that going on? Like I said, I don't think it needs too much, but there are things that need mentioned.
Fun interaction. Again, Sawyer is hilarious. And then his little conversation with Saeed. I mean, it's these little interactions that matter. And I mean, like, we're getting different characters interacting with each other. I don't think we've really had a Walt and Sawyer interaction too much in any of the episodes before this, so it's really funny putting them together.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to see like Boone, Walt, and Michael all getting a little bit more this episode. Like Walt, props, like he tore Sawyer apart basically just talking.
Yeah.
I do love that scene between Saeed and Sawyer. And, you know, we see Sawyer, and when Sawyer was talking to Walt as well, we do have that great line where he's talking about Ethan's plan. He's like, so his plan's to take a pregnant lady and a has-been from VH1 rejects or whatever he says.
Yes.
Such a cruel line. So funny. But I do love in that scene between Saeed and Sawyer that Sawyer, you know, he does kind of hear Saeed out at least, and Saeed tells him, you know, I left out of shame for what I did to you. And it's just a little moment when Sawyer leaves, he's like, I kept your signal fire burning. And it's like, despite everything they went through, it's like, it's just a nice little moment where it's like, kind of like, okay, we've had our conversation. I kept your fire going. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they're not all best friends, but they are like in the most wildcat way all in this together.
Yeah.
I think on some level he does believe that Saeed is, you know, remorseful about it.
Right.
Whether he says he's fresh out of forgiveness, but I think he does at least see that in him.
Yeah, I think like I love that you bring that up because it's not they're not best buddies. They're not going to have a cigarette together on the beach or anything, but it's more of that, all right, I don't like you, you don't like me, you were remorseful, I kept your fire burning, we're done. What's done is done, wash the hands, kind of move on past it. But it is a great moment because you kind of at least see some growth between these. I mean, like, they were fighting. He thought he was the terrorist sitting there with the blanket. Like, so again, we're getting some little bits of character growth in everybody each episode, which is great.
Also, props to Charlie for leaving the clues behind of how to track him. Smart Charlie.
Well, I'm glad you bring this up. Let's go into it. So we get to them back at the jungle where they stumble upon the A, which is the next thing that was on his finger. And he's like, okay, we got to go this way. And Locke's like, but there's tracks over here. There's footprints. Like, maybe this is a dummy trail. And Kate even brings this up. She's like, maybe he's not the one that's leaving them. So it starts to then point the question of, is Charlie actually leaving this? Is this Ethan doing this to throw us off? But then they're like, wait, you can track? Like, where does this come from? So where we now get the point where Jack is still in his like tunnel vision. Great, you go that way, we'll go this way. Locke says, no, I think we should stay together. We already know that he's already taken 2 people off. That's not an issue. Jack's like, no, we got two trails, 2 trackers. Let's go. Like, we don't have time to debate this. So of course, Kate and Jack take off in one direction following the A that they think Charlie left. Boone and I hate you so much sometimes. Boone and Locke take off following the footprints. And so with that, we get to a moment of, Jack is like, again, tunnel vision rushing through this. Kate is like, please slow down. Like, I'm not as good at this as Locke is. And then also, I have to point this out. I think this is, again, a very much of a dick move from Jack here in this episode, is him coming again, like, where'd you get the tracking skills, Kate? Like, was that before or after you decided to be a fugitive? You know what I mean? Like, bro, she gave you the opportunity. Like, I wish she would have, like, been like, I'm not telling you, but he had that moment. She was going to tell him, he's like, I don't care. It was a great moment on the beach. He's like, we were all reborn here. Yesterday doesn't matter anymore. We're all new people.
Right.
Oh, but now you want to throw it in my face. And so I felt that was a very kind of dickish move from Jack in that moment. But she decided, instead of being a dick right back, she had a very real moment. She's like, my dad, he was in the Army, Ranger Battalion, and it was like, that was like his piece of being we tracked deer for 8 hours. It was just a real moment. And she kind of then does stick it to him at the end and says, that was real. Anything you want to share, Jack? And that's where I'm going to kind of leave it, because I want to jump back to our flashbacks here in the next section. But Jake, where are you at here? We got 2 trails. Are you follow what you think is a Charlie, or are you a hopeful person, or evidence is right in front of me, footsteps? Where are you going? Which track are you taking here?
Oh boy. I feel like I'd be hopeful that maybe we'll find something by following like Charlie's stuff that's been dropped, but also like the footprints are leading somewhere as well. So it's a tough call. I feel like I'd want to like try to rescue Charlie. Like if I see that there's, the option is maybe to like try to like find where Charlie might be, then I might take that. I did notice like as well that what Charlie has written on his finger tags is late, and I don't know if it's me overthinking it, but like almost it could have been like they could have been late to save him kind of thing, like because he was dropping these, but I don't know, that's just probably me reading too far into it.
Well, I mean, no, it's good that like I never thought about it that way. I mean, just to put it out there, the late was written on the hands because it was in reference to Claire being pregnant and on the island there.
Right.
But I've never thought about it that way, Jake. That's a really good kind of new perspective to bring in. Is that yes, maybe he wrote that for Claire in the beginning, but like to now hone in on it as well, knowing what happens there at the end. Yeah, it's a great I don't know if anybody else thought that, and I'm just the idiot, but that's a really good perception.
Yeah, because in episode 1 it was Fate, and then he changed it to an L. So yeah, it's like, in fact, lucky he had something to, leave his little breadcrumbs.
Right.
I'm gonna defend Jack.
Shocking.
No, okay, so listen. She out of nowhere can track, right? Like, where did this skill come from? It's a very high stress situation, and as we just noted a minute ago with the conversation between Saeed and Sawyer, like they aren't actually best friends, right? Like they just met each other. So like he's now finding out, Jack is now finding out someone within the group wasn't actually from the plane, right? Like they've been betrayed. Claire's been kidnapped. Charlie's been kidnapped. We're trying to figure out what's happening. Like Locke's being obnoxious. Like all this is going on. And so like, does he ask her in the best way? No, he doesn't ask her in the best way. But like, people get stressed. People get stressed and they word things poorly sometimes. And I don't think that is the worst thing that he's ever done.
I mean, Jack's angry at himself.
Right.
He's let this happen. He didn't believe Claire,
right.
and he's lashing out at people that are trying to help him.
Right.
And like Kate is doing everything she can. It's like she doesn't deserve Jack like coming down on her like that when she's helping, but it's because Jack is frustrated with himself.
And exactly, because like we would all think the same thing about Claire if that was happening. Like in that situation, we would all be like, okay, well, like Claire, you're like 9.5 months pregnant and you're on an island with no food, no peanut butter. Like you're having crazy nightmares. Like you're fine. Right. Like we would all be thinking that. So like, it's not like he wasn't like crazy out of line, but the fact that he thought that's what he thought. And then he ended up being wrong. Like he feels bad. So like, yes, he did not go to Kate and talk to her about this in the right way. However, he's a flawed person. He's not perfect. Like this is
all of these characters are flawed. So maybe you should give that same leeway to other characters.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
No, because this is different. He's
It's not different. There's
this is
zero
very
difference
different.
here.
This is very different because Jack is not selfish. He does not want the glory for himself. He wants to save Claire. He doesn't want everyone to thank him for being amazing. He wants to fix his mistake.
I'm so over your narrative now.
That's your.
So
Let's
over
move on,
this.
come on.
Greg, give us something so that Kevin will shut up. I'm so over him right now.
I don't even know how to follow that.
Right. Because it's just so wrong.
Right. No, I was actually I started something on this episode where to help with the best and worst characters of this episode, I started putting a tally whenever they're kind of an asshole to everybody or anybody. And, yeah, Jack's got quite a few off of that one.
Ooh.
Dick. He's a massive dick.
Yeah.
He's an Enneagram 8. He doesn't have time for like your feelings. Just do what's got to get done.
I would feel that Locke would say the same thing. He doesn't have time for your feelings. Going back to, like I said, I wanted to touch back on our flashback here. So we see that now we just left Jack with his dad here about in the operating room where the lady has now died. The next day, obviously, he calls Jack into his office. He's like, here, sign this report. He's like, well, what's it say? And he's like, despite our best efforts, we tried to save her. And he's like, it's not what happened, Dad. You were drunk, you idiot. Like, what do you do? And he's like, but if you mention, like, you don't know. The car accident could have done that. We don't know. If you mention alcohol, it ruins me. It takes my license. He's like, yeah, you were drunk. Again, his dad's like, don't do this to me. Like, that's the only thing that they'll hear. I promise I will never happen again. And Jack signs the paper. Later that day they're in the hospital. He's walking down the hallway. He sees his dad talking to a person. And he asks the nurse, who's that guy talking to my dad? And she's like, that's the husband. He's threatening to sue. And so, I mean, I think anybody, especially if you're wanting your doctors to save your loved one, obviously. So, I mean, granted, I think anybody's going to feel that way after they die suddenly, but, obviously there's good reason behind it here. And so with that, I do see a moment between Kristin and this. Obviously he's trying to save his ass, but like, he did take a moment, like he puts his hand on this guy's shoulder, like, I'm so, I can imagine what that conversation was of him being like, so sorry she died. Like, but I really did everything. It's like still trying to cover his ass, but he's still trying to comfort in a way. Mm-hmm. But just knowing who Kristin is as a person, we know that was it wasn't a very like, I'm here for you moment. It was a very selfish moment, which we're going to get into when we get to the kind of those final flashbacks here. But anybody's thoughts on him being able to convince Jack, knowing Jack was in the right there, him being able to convince Jack right there on the spot to sign the paper, or anything else from this flashback?
I mean, like we've seen this relationship between Jack and Kristin, and it's like so manipulative. Like, and Kristin he's like battered down Jack's self-confidence since he was a child, and it's like you see that when he's talking to Kristin, he's just like he eventually just bows down to him because he just doesn't have I would say doesn't have what it takes, which is what Kristin to like stand up for him in that to him in that moment. So he just does what he said, even though he knows that it's wrong. And that moment of comfort in him, I do agree. Like, I don't think Kristin's a monster. Like, I don't think he's like pure evil. I do think he probably does feel, remorse for this, but it is absolutely also about saving his skin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like saving his skin, but like, I think he also genuinely thinks that he did nothing wrong. So like, it doesn't it's like, I need to save myself so that I don't get in trouble, but also like, no, like, guy, we did everything we could for her. Like, it really was just an accident. There's it has to, because the guys bought it, like it has to have some kind of something genuine behind it for the person to like actually like agree. Like, yeah, okay, you're right. So like, we do see the very complicated nature of Kristin.
Jake, what were your thoughts? I mean, we've seen a little bit of Kristin here. We know that he's not a great dad, not a great person, really. But now we're getting even more complex into him and him and Jack's story here. What were your thoughts going through this interaction between the two? He's calling his dad out, but then literally the next day he's like just caving to him. What are your thoughts on this father-son thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jack's dad is kind of manipulative. I mean, we see him literally manipulate him to just like forgive what he's done for a bit. Like, yeah, he needed time for himself to drink instead of like doing his job and saving someone's life. So it maybe he's not like a terrible person, but he really made a horrible judgment call. Christian did, and so it was nice to kind of see consequences at the end of the day for Christian of like Jack figuring that even though this is his dad, he needs to step up and say something and do the right thing, because deliberately like drinking and screwing up and killing someone basically when you could have saved their life is just terrible.
Yeah. I think it does need to be pointed out though, we're looking at probably Christian on a day off, out having a lunch. This is not, we never get the implying, if you will, that he went to lunch while at work and drank. It does seem like he was off. Jack was upstairs.
He got called in.
And so, but that is the kind of when you're a doctor, especially if you're very good in your field, we know that he was chief of surgery from when Jack said that. So we know that if you're that good of a doctor, you always have to be on point. So if you're going to go out and have, you know what I mean? You can always get called in if you're that good. So it's on Christian that maybe he should have some, boundaries when it comes to drinking, but we know that that's not him. So
Right.
We also
I do have to point that out, that he was not at work.
No, but this is also like a fairly accurate portrayal of of an alcoholic, of a person who like he's promising he's never going to do it again, and he's promising that he was in control of himself, like he can have that much alcohol and it's not a problem, and he wasn't shaking, and like it's very very like classic alcoholic words and behavior. So like, of course that person is going to, if they're not thinking that they have to do a surgery, they're going to drink at lunch. Like, of course they are. And that person is not going to recognize that they are too drunk to do the surgery when they do get called in. Like, it's just very accurate portrayal that I appreciate.
Well, that's the thing as well. If he trusted Jack's abilities more and saw that he was a very good doctor, he was off. If they'd called him and he'd said, I'm at lunch, I've had a drink, my son's in, he can do the surgery. But it's like, no, Christian needs to go in because Christian is better than Jack, and Jack doesn't have what it takes. And it's like, if he just trusted his son, maybe Jack could have saved it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
100%. So anything else on Christian, Jack in this flashback before we continue? Okay, great. So this is not going to be the main topic of this next section here, but it is worth a mention. Hurley and Walt are playing backgammon on the beach, brings it back up, so he's like, oh, I wasn't very good when I started playing. He's like, I came in 17th on the tournament. He's like, that's not very good, dude. Like, why are you bragging?
That's hilarious.
And so obviously we see Walt sitting here and he's like, I need I'm doing this. My other favorite moment is he's like, I need a 4 and a 3. And he's like,
roll the dice.
Hurley's just like, bro, like, but it's also such a kid thing to do that you're like, oh my gosh, come on, let's go. Like, let's finish this off. But you see Hurley walk away. He's like, you owe me $20,000. He's like, you'll get it. Like, whatever, moving on. Like, this is sure. We're on an island. We're stuck here, dude. So with that, I mean, that it's not major into the story, but it's something that is worth a mention. It was just a really cute interaction between them. But going into like the main thing, we now have our two groups that have split up. We have Kate and Jack off following the letters. We have Sawyer, sorry, he's always on my brain. Boone and Locke off in the other direction following the footsteps. Going into Boone and Locke, because obviously more so happens over here with Kate and Jack. So I want to go here. They're starting to get to know one another. He's like, Boone's like, I worked for my mother's wedding thing. He's like, what'd you do, Locke? He's like, I worked for a box company. We can see this interaction where they're tying the red shirts off. He's bringing up the red shirts of Star Trek and things like that. We mentioned that Locke was, Terry O'Quinn was in in Star Trek, and he also wore a red shirt. So good kind of like plug there for that. But you kind of see this new relationship forming. And he tells Boone he should probably go back. He's like, no, I'm sticking with you. Let's keep going. And one of my favorite lines ever is he's like, it's gonna start raining in a minute. He's like, in a minute. He's like, give or take a few seconds. And of course the rain falls. He's like, do they teach you to predict the weather at a box company? I love like, it's because it's so out of like, okay. And he even says, he's like, you're probably a hitman, or, he's coming up with all these like things that Locke could be. And box company was not on the list. So, them just kind of building that relationship is, I think, again, Lost is really good at, we talk about the details too, like the red shirts, all these things, but they're also really good at, like, even when we get these connections, we brought up Sawyer and Saeed having those moments there, we could see that they were somewhat glossing over what their relationship is, but now we're also seeing another relationship being formed over here. So I love that they, Lost is able to do that, especially with so much going on in the episode. Obviously going back to where all the action, if you will, is happening. Kate and Jack stumble upon the tea. And he goes, I guess we were right. And then all of a sudden, of course it's raining because Locke, Mr. Boxman, has predicted it. But you hear a scream, not once, but twice. And so Jack takes off. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, you didn't hear that? She's like, hear what? And he's like, they're screaming, blah, blah, blah. And he's climbing up this massive hill. Kate's following him. To which then Jack falls down and separates them at this point because she's all the way at the top. He fell all the way down. He wakes up to Ethan, Mr. Ethan Rom there. And he said, if you don't stop following us, I will kill one of them. He's stepping on his chest. He's like, I'm serious. Like, do not follow us any longer. Jack, of course, being Jack, stands up and tries to fight Ethan. Bro, like, you just got a mild concussion because you hit a rock, but I'm applauding the effort. Like, Ethan, there's no fight here. There's no comparison. You were all kind of
shit out of him.
Yeah, like, you're literally like, you're so discombobulated. But yeah, no, he literally, like Michael said, got the shit kicked out of him, to where he then falls unconscious here. And I'm gonna stop because I don't want it, because I want the next kind of interactions are more so leading up into the end here. So I do want to stop right here on this moment. So Jake, what were your thoughts of now we've been chasing after Ethan. Ethan has appeared. He's giving him a threat. Do not follow us anymore. I'm killing one of them. Kicks the crap out of Jack and then he's gone. So what are your thoughts here on this?
Well, clearly off of that threat, that Charlie was going to be the victim of that because they clearly want Claire for something, for the kid, I'm assuming, for the baby. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those like villain things, like don't come be the hero, don't save these people, or they're gonna die and everything you love, yada yada yada. But it's a little generic villain, but makes sense. I guess I'm just curious as well to learn more about Ethan. Clearly he's a guy who's had like some sort of training because he kicked the shit out of Jack. So like clearly some sort of military training or something. So that's kind of my thoughts on this interaction. I was hoping to kind of understand more about Ethan's character, but I guess we might get that hopefully soon. So
yeah, anybody else on this? I mean, even to Locke and Boone, you guys can bring that up. I mean, it was more playful than anything at that point, but anybody on this section?
My other things, I think I mentioned before, like, did Ethan like purposely have Claire scream at a certain point, like to make them climb up that impossible hill? Like is he that knowledgeable about the island? I kind of had that question of like, because like I said while we were watching, the geography of the island sometimes is like very confusing. So like I did have that question of like, is he that far, like did he orchestrate this entire like trek that they went on? But then also like, again, being a Jack, if you tell me not to do something like that. Like that's the threat you make. That is a promise. That's what I'm going to do. So
Right.
like telling Jack, if you keep following me, I'm going to kill one of them, is like, all I hear is you're going to kill one of them. So now I have to track you down and kill you first. Like,
Right.
so I was like, yeah, all right, wake up, Jack. And when he does wake up, it's very funny. Like he's like, wake up, keep going. But like, wake up, Jack. Because he's trying to kill your friends. Let's go.
There's more of Jack being completely lost.
Yeah, I mean, that scene with. It's funny you mentioned that, Kevin. Of like, he says, "If you don't stop following me, I'm going to kill one of them." It's like, can you trust him at his word? Like, what happens to Charlie if Jack goes back to the camp there? Would he still have hung him? Like, who knows? Where was he taking them? We don't have the information, but Jack is ultimately able to save Charlie, so it all kind of works out. But is that something that Jack caused, or would that have happened anyway? Was Ethan planning on the second he left going and hanging Charlie, and like it was a warning, but it was going to be something he did regardless?
Right.
Yeah.
You're muted, Kristin.
At least somebody was gonna have to do it. Yeah, I think honestly in that moment it's like, yeah, he's not thinking clearly. He's got rescue on the brain, and so yeah, you just have to continue on with that at that point. As delirious as you are from one falling down this massive hill, hitting your head, now getting the shit kicked out of you.
Right.
So yeah, 100%.
But like I said, like all he hears is like when the phrase, "If you follow me, I'm going to kill one of them." All he hears is, "I'm going to kill one of them." So like I have to stop you.
Yeah.
So going back to the flashback here, and I'm going to kind of combine this into what we're about to stumble upon. So we see them at this meeting because obviously there's a lawsuit. So the hospital board is probably kind of getting their statements here. You hear Christian kind of saying what has happened, and they're like, great. Okay. We got everything we need. Sounds like open shut. We're done. But one last question. Did you realize that she was pregnant when you were operating? He's like, yep, totally. We had to save the mom. She was so very early on in her pregnancy. Meanwhile, you see Jack over here just like has had an epiphany. He's like, what? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, she was pregnant too. And we just let this woman die. Like he's going through it. And he's like, you know what? That is it. I'm changing my statement to Christian going, Jack, what are you doing? Shut up, Jack. Hey, stop, Bo. Like, and Jack goes, my dad was drunk. It's like, and it's not even, he just lays it out there. He's like, he was drunk. And then of course, that's kind of the moment where a lot of things change. Which brings us back onto the island of him saying, he's not going to get away with this. Not again. And Kate's like, bro, like you are so out of your mind right now. What is happening? What are we doing? And he's just, again, tunnel vision. He's like, we are going to find, Charlie and Claire. This is a moment where I think Lost did a fantastic job of this because they've been chasing the letters. So they stumble upon E, and we see the E, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, okay, there's the last letter. They're back on the trail. Ethan's not as clever as we thought. Oh, wait. Okay, wait, we've got something serious. Charlie is hanging by a tree, or from a tree, and it's this is like such an emotional scene. He instantly goes and we got to cut him down, and Kate's trying to climb as fast as she can. She can't reach the branch, and he's like, pull him over closer. And of course she cuts him down, where Jack just immediately goes into Dr. Jack. He's doing CPR. We've got to save Charlie. And just the emotion, this raw emotion of this scene of we're all believe that he is dead. Who knows how long he's been hanging there? I mean, his color does not look great. And Jack is he's going to town. Kate's, at first she's like, save him, oh my gosh, come on, Jack, come on, Charlie, to the point where she's realizing he's dead. Jack, you've got to give up. Like now now you're torturing the dead because Jack is like pounding on him. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you just got to stop. This is it. It's over. And he stops for a second and he ponders, but then he goes back to what I'm sure has been through his whole life of maybe going back to that very specific moment of like, I stopped when my dad told me to stop, and I'm not doing that again. I'm remembering these things. It's how we're led to believe that these flashbacks are like their memories because of what they're going through on the island.
Right.
And so of course he jumps right back into starting. I mean, he's pounding the crap out of Charlie. That is a move. If they cannot get a heart started, they will pound to get it even more of a jump start. And especially if they don't have paddles, obviously at a hospital and things like that. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, Charlie gasps for air and wakes up. And I have to touch on this one moment. Like, not only is this just an emotional scene, but the cradling of Charlie in that moment, but also Charlie's gasping for air, trying to like come to terms with what just happened to him. I was dead. I'm alive now. I'm breathing. It's trouble. I'm having trouble breathing because I just was dead. But also there's a moment when he is like, they're cradling him in this moment, or Jack is, I should say, that they then focus in on Charlie's eyes, where you actually see the switch in his brain of, where's Claire? And I think that's he never says it, but you know that's why they're focusing in on that moment of him being, because you see him in that panic, like gasping, like, oh my God, I can't breathe, I can't, to where he really goes, oh gosh, where's Claire? You know, and I think that was such an important moment to show that maybe not a lot of people pick up on, because it was just such a very like not as in your face kind of moment. But that is probably one of my favorite moments of them just like cradling him, like, we just saved you, you're okay, like almost like a parent with a kid, like when they get hurt, like, it's okay, we've got you. And there's just so much to unpack in this episode, or in this moment. So who wants to, Jake, I always come to you first just because you are the new watcher here. What are your thoughts here?
Horrifying. Like, you're just like, they're looking for Charlie and Claire, and like you figure that you've followed the clues to get them there. They found the last of Charlie's finger tags, and then right, like, you look up and you just see his body hanging there. Like, it's very, very horrifying. I definitely didn't expect that. I didn't expect that they'd almost kill a character off 11 episodes into the show of like a 6-season series. So to think that Charlie was dead already was very shocking. So I almost, at one point, I thought that they were just going to end it with Charlie passing away. And I was like, they can't really do this soon, but can they? So I don't know.
They're so sneaky as well, though. Like, I should have the name of the person directing this episode, but I don't. Like, audiences are used to how shows go, so they have the moment where he stops, and the music stops, the camera pulls away to a wide shot, and it feels like that's the end of the scene. If he was going to be saved, that was the moment he was going to be saved, and now the scene is over. Like, shit, he's dead. And then they come back in and he tries it again. So it's like, it's such a good little trick from the director to really make you buy, like, he really is going to die here. And I totally bought it. I was heartbroken when I watched this episode. Like, up to this point, I think Charlie was like my favorite character, or like one of. And I completely thought he was gone. It was so well done by the directors and the actors. Mm-hmm. I do have one little thing just before we move on to Kevin and Gregg on filming this scene. Dominic Monaghan was in a harness for 5 hours, and he there's a quote here from him where he says, "They put me in the tree and I just hung there. I hung there limp. I tried to fall asleep, just tried to relax. When everything was going on, they cut me down from the tree. When Matthew Fox was trying to revive me and Evangeline Lilly was crying, I didn't really hear any of it. I was just in a semi-meditative state. However close I could get to that with someone smacking me in the chest over and over again."
I love him. Also, I looked it up for you, Michael, while you were talking. Stephen Williams directed this episode. So shout out to Stephen Williams. So yeah, kudos to that. All right, Kevin and Gregg, what are your thoughts on this revelation that Charlie is hanging by a tree and almost dying?
Before I get to comment on Charlie and the tree, I want to go back to Jack's flashback of like coming clean about his dad and telling him what actually happened, and like how that connects to the previous Jack episode and how like just talking about Jack's guilt in general about like he has the guilt of like he's the one who did this to his dad. He's the reason that his dad went to Australia and died, right? And then he's got the guilt of this, you know, this woman had a baby and like he couldn't save her, he couldn't save the baby, and like what if he knew she was pregnant, or what if he had gotten there sooner, or what if they called him instead of his dad? You know, he's got all of these guilt things that he's going through, and now he's got the guilt of he should have listened to Claire and he didn't. So he's dealing with a lot, and I just feel so bad for Jack. But like I think that informs a lot of his decision making. So like, is he perfect? Absolutely not. But like when you take all of that guilt and regret like weighing on this one person, like a lot of his decisions and his wants to make things right make a lot of sense. Specifically going back to Charlie in the tree, we get to see that juxtaposition of his dad told him to stop with the woman in the accident, and he did, and she died. And now we see Kate telling him to stop with Charlie, and he does for a second, but then he goes back and Charlie lives. And so like we get a little redemption out of that. So good for Jack for having some like positive thing happen to him for a change. Charlie, listen, we all thought he was dead. We're watching the episode. We think Charlie's dead. And it's like, it's not only shocking because of what you said about how it's shot and how it's filmed, but it's also shocking because in the larger narrative of the story, like we just had a few episodes ago, like he kicked his drug habit, right? Like he's on this redemption journey. Like that's what he's there for on the island, is to like heal and get better. And like, he can't die this early in that journey. So we were all having our hearts ripped out and stomped on by the people in this episode. And then he came back to life, but then he's like tortured again. So
yeah,
poor Charlie.
You mentioned redemption, and that is one of the things that I noticed throughout this episode is everybody's on a redemption path. Jack's on his for the pregnant girl he let die because of his dad. Saeed is regretful of what he had to do to Sawyer. Hell, even Sawyer kept the fire lit.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Even Kate as well, you know, was seeing her, you know, from this fugitive to, you know, helping try and save this guy and like sobbing over him. This guy that she's known for a couple of weeks, and seeing her grow as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Having a heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have to touch on this one more time, and again, this goes to like all of the camera operator, the director, the writer, all of these things. I think what is so shocking about this moment, not only of us all thinking that Charlie was dead, is that we didn't see this coming. Like we saw the letter E, and it was just zoned in on the E. We're like, oh, they found another clue. Okay, great. Like he is going where he was supposed to, even though he was knocked out. Then to do the whole comeback and it's him hanging from the tree, I think it's just like, it sets you up for you're so excited, and then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is horrible. Yeah. So I just had to throw that back out there because I think that was a brilliant moment to get us all wrapped into thinking this is going to go one way, and it was most certainly not that way at all. So anyway, so going to where we're going to end it again, kind of in another cliffhanger here. We get back to the caves. You know, we see that Charlie's he's not doing well. I mean, the man was literally just hanging from his neck, but he's also going through like the torture again, like that, you know, Kevin mentioned. We see Walt say he has not spoken. And his dad, what did they find Claire? You see Hurley and his very worried, like, he didn't even have to shake his head. Like, no, like does it look like she's here? You know, but just kind of all of them realizing that Charlie almost died. Ethan's still gone with Claire. It's a very serious, like, what are we going to do? You know? And then we, of course, go over to Jack. Like, hey, we're going, as soon as first light, we're going back out. I need you to talk to me. I need you to give me anything that you remember, like something that we can know where we are going. And he kind of just sits there for a minute, but then he speaks up and he's like, I don't remember anything. I don't know. Like, I've got nothing for you, Jack. Like, I don't know. And then the big line here is all they wanted was Claire. And he says they? He said all they wanted was Claire. Which gives us like kind of where they're at. They? That was Ethan. What is this they thing? What is happening here? So one major revelation there. Then to pan over to Boone and Locke, we've got Boone going, bro, you are lost. You've done something stupid here. I am done following you in blind faith here any longer. I'm following the shirts. You know, we should go back. And Locke saying, nope, I'm following something. You know, you don't feel it, you know, whatever. To Boone saying, no, I think you've lost your freaking mind and I want to go back now. I'm not having any more fun. He says, here's a flashlight. You need it more than I do. Tosses it to him, of course. I mean, Boone misses it and it lands on something metal. And we're like, what is this? What's going on here? We see them, you know, moving some branches. There's mud, of course, it's rain. They're just trying to clear what they can to figure out what this is with very little light. And Boone goes, is this part of the plane? And they're just sitting there like, what could this possibly be? And then they're just sitting there questioning it. Locke, of course, goes, well, that's what we're going to find out. And of course, that's where we leave the episode where the Lost appears onto the screen here. But two massive revelations, not just one. Now we got two revelations in this final moments of an episode. We have all they wanted was Claire. And what is this big metal thing on the ground here? So Jake, I'm coming to you first as usual. What are your thoughts here on these two things?
All right. Well, I think it's it's either part of the shipwreck that like Danielle and I think like Ethan and whatever. I think this is. I mean, I know she said she had to kill all her people, so maybe it's a different shipwreck, but it could be that. Could be a doorway to some sort of underground base or something on the island because we've literally seen like a cable from the water to the island in episode 9 with Saeed, and so and obviously Danielle's base. So like I think it could very well be another like underground base of some kind. Yeah, that or a piece of a shipwreck.
And then your thoughts on Charlie?
Oh yeah, do Charlie.
Yeah, on the they.
Oh, yeah. Well, so my thoughts on what Charlie was mentioning, I mean, it's probably talking about whoever Ethan's working with, like some sort of government people or whatever organization Ethan is working with. So, it made sense that Ethan wouldn't be able to drag both of them, because they even mentioned it earlier in the episode. Like he clearly would have had to have people helping him ambush Claire and Charlie. So yeah, I think it's definitely a group of people working together there.
Who's next? There's a lot to unpack here. Who's next?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go. So, like, I think I understand Kevin's frustrations with Locke. I do. I think what makes Locke such a popular character and such a fascinating character is, like, he's someone that is more concerned, selfishly or not, with where are they? What is this island and the mysteries of the island? So, finding, and the audience wants to know what the hell's going on in this place. So like Locke finding this with Boone, something under the ground. It's like peeling back more layers of where the hell are they and why is there something metal and quite vast, it seemed, under the ground that now we're going to get. Locke is going to be way more focused on what the hell this thing is because he wants to know the mysteries of this island. And I don't know. I think people like focus on the reality of like surviving here, which is great, and we have great characters to do that. But also, this is a mystery show, and it feels like Locke is the person that's pushing the mystery stuff forward and giving us, clues and paths to answers there. So that's why I personally like enjoy following Locke's journey because he's leading us to like answers.
I already know Kevin's gonna do, so I'm gonna wait for him to do some stupid Locke.
No, I like it's okay. It's things that bother me about Locke. Like when he's like, that's what we're here to find out. What do you mean that's like instead of just saying I don't know, instead of giving like a real answer, like, well, that's what we're here to find out. Like, you don't know everything, Locke. Shut up. Anyway, like that's just it's like it's that sort. Again, I respect the character. I respect everything that he brings to the show. The show would not be the same without him. I don't like. I'm not angry. I'm a Jack. If I was Jack, I would just constantly be telling him to shut up and just tell me, spit it out. Spit it out. Stop giving me a riddle. Stop trying to teach me a lesson. Just tell me the thing that I need to know. So that's the thing with Locke. The idea that, like I said, I had been thinking for a while that there's other people on the island. So like the idea that they only wanted Claire, like I knew it. So like, who are they? I want to know who they are. I don't need Locke to know who they are. I want to know who they are. Track them down. So I loved that. And then like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything about the metal thing because we're going to come back to the metal thing in future episodes. I don't want to say anything about it.
I was so nervous talking about it.
I don't even want to talk about it because we come back to it. Like I said, I just wish, like, and not for the show, right? Like for the show, it's going to work fabulous. But like, as someone who puts themselves in that situation and thinks about like what I would want the person who finds this to then be honest and tell everyone about it. And that's clearly not when he's like, that's what we're here to figure out. Like, he's clearly not going to like go back and like, hey everyone, we found this thing. Let's all go there together. It's just not the way he's going to handle it. And I don't like those kinds of people.
Gregg, any thoughts?
Yeah. So when I first watched this episode, I remember thinking with the they and the metal thing, Jake, you had mentioned it a couple episodes ago about the movie where the cabin in the woods situation.
Yeah.
Like that's what I thought was going on. Like instantly, I'm like, okay, so the island's metal and there's other people here doing other stuff.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm right there with you, Gregg. Like when in the very beginning of the episode, they're like, how did Ethan carry these two people off, one of them being pregnant? I instantly was like, there has to be at least one other person that's like he can't drag two unconscious bodies because they have to be unconscious or they're gonna fight back. Right. And so you're not carrying two basically dead weight people out of, and then on top of it pregnant. So I also, my wheels were already turning, but then to hear Charlie kind of reveal it of like all they wanted was Claire, it was like kind of an epiphany moment of being like, oh my God, wait, we were right. Wait, there's they there. It's not just Ethan, it's a they. Who are they? You know, you kind of really want to dive into this. And again, it's like these cliffhangers that are get you wanting more because they're just you cannot sit still. Like, and again, thinking about watching this for like first time in 2004, we're now into 2005 because we're in the new year. But I mean,
no, this is the last one in 2004.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah, I mean, to literally have us sitting there waiting a week in between episodes when they're giving us so much, and you sit there for an entire week being like, okay, well, it could be this, it could be, okay, but do you remember this part? Like, it's just all these conversations. Like, I know when I was watching it with my friends, I'm like, we're on the phone, like, literally as soon as the episode ended, and we're like, oh my God, did you catch this? Oh no, but did you, you know, it's just one of those things that you spend an entire week trying to figure out something that you weren't, like, you're never going to be right on, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my feelings on it. I do have to bring up two really fun facts about this episode. So Claire, so Emily de Ravine, she does not appear in this episode. She's not even credited for this episode, but she screams in it. Like, that is her voice. She is screaming. She is the one that does that. And this is also the only episode that Sun does not appear in season 1. This is the only one that she was not there for.
I
noticed that they weren't in it.
Right, Sun and Jin were just gone.
Yeah. So, which is funny because we're like, why is Hurley babysitting? It's supposed to be Sun. So,
Yeah.
but it's literally the only episode of the season that she does not appear. So
Maybe they were busy that day
Maybe.
filming.
maybe she was down with the flu or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, like I mean, just from like a shooting it stand, like a logistical standpoint, like they can't translate what's happening like effectively.
Well, she can.
Efficiently. like she could, but like we're not supposed to know that she can. So then
Right.
they're gonna try to find a way to explain and like there's just not time for that in this episode.
But you know what's funny is watching this though is she's been closely working with Jack at this point now. She's like his nurse, if you will. So for Saeed to come in with a messed up leg and where the hell is Sun with all of her little stuff, you're like, where'd she go? Where'd she go? So
Yeah.
I just had to point that out because she has been kind of his right hand like nurse, if you will, in the last couple episodes here. So
maybe that's where she was. Maybe she was tending the garden to
maybe. Anything else that we need to mention about this ending before we go into our rankings and favorites and least favorites? All right, let's get to it.
All right. Favorite for me is going to be Jack. I think just the way he was able to save Charlie's life and how they built up to that of him making that right decision this time and not quitting. Like, I think he just makes sense to be the favorite for the episode. And then least favorite, I'll say Ethan because he almost murdered Charlie. So
next,
I'll go with my favorite first is Walt. He's the only person so far that's really like gone in on Sawyer like that. And then, the whole you owe me 20 grand and everything else.
Mhm.
And Christian's the bad guy of the episode. Ethan tried to kill Charlie. He did kill a pregnant lady.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
redeeming quality there. You didn't make her scream, but she's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jack is my favorite character. Like, I am a Jack. I love Jack. I'm picking Jack. Like, the fact that he saved Charlie, like, the fact that he did do the right thing finally and report his dad, even though, as we know, that leads to, like, a horrible outcome. Like, he does do the right thing, and he, like, learns his lessons. And we just saw in the last episode with Claire kind of, like, constantly not being manipulated, but just like she goes along with what people tell her to do, and like Jack kind of learning to not do that. So I'm picking Jack. Least favorite, I'm gonna agree as Christian, especially because of the like, yes, he's terrible all around, but like he made the cut, and like Jack says when he like reveals everything, like he made that one cut because he slipped, and that's what caused her to die. And like he was going to take no accountability for that. So you suck, Christian.
I'm kind of torn with my favorite. I'd like to give an honorable mention to Kate. I think she was like a core MVP of the episode, and really kept Jack in check. But Jack isn't perfect, like we've discussed. He's got his flaws, but Jack was the hero of the episode despite those flaws, and he really, without him, Charlie would be dead. And they need Jack on this island. Without him, they'd be so screwed, even if he's not always right. And my least favorite, I agree, Ethan, who is this savage man? Like, he's like so animalistic. He's like, his fighting where Jack didn't even get a punch in, he's just so brutal. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he almost killed Charlie, so you got to take the worst.
All right, I say this a lot of times. Buckle up. You guys are going to be shocked a little bit. Obviously, Sawyer's number one and Shannon's least favorite. But besides that, I am going to throw you guys for a loop a little bit. And this is going to be the first time
she's going to pick Locke just to spite me.
That my favorite character is also my least favorite character. They are filling both slots. And it's going to be Ethan. And here is why.
Oh.
Ethan.
I thought you were going to do Jack.
No. Ethan, for the obvious reasons that you guys have already mentioned, he tried to kill Charlie. I do not approve. I love Charlie. What are you doing? Don't be an asshole. Especially when he's on this journey that we're all rooting for and this Claire thing. Like, stop being an asshole. Stealing pregnant people, like, not approved. And so, like, for that reason, you guys have already mentioned all those other reasons. So the reason why he's also my favorite character is because Ethan has been MIA except for a random pop-up with Locke that he's his hunting buddy until last episode when he's like, I'm from Ontario, my name's Ethan Rom. And then it's like, where's Ethan? And he wasn't on the plane. And we cut off with him staring creepily at Claire and Charlie.
Mhm.
So for him to come out of the woodwork, if you will, to be such a substantial character where he's the straight up the villain here. He is, like you said, beating up Jack. He has no remorse. He does not care. He is taking him out. He is killing Charlie. There's so much complexity to what this Ethan character is, and we're still not even scratching the surface of Ethan, that he has to be my favorite character because I want to know more. Like, I want to keep seeing him. As much as I don't want to keep seeing him, I want to keep seeing him.
Right.
That is why he is my favorite and least favorite character of the episode.
That makes sense. I also wanted to say I think his fighting style when he beats the crap out of Jack is like reminds me of Thanos versus Hulk in Infinity War.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Punches all his like weak points, pressure points, and then like knocks him down. Like I think that's it just reminds me of that. Obviously, that is what like 15 years prior to Infinity War happening.
I think he even does the exact same move where like Jack goes for the upper swing and he moves and hits him in the stomach. I think that's even a move that
Thanos does to Hulk. Yeah. Yep. So.
All right, now here's the hard part.
Oh boy.
Where's this episode going?
Well, in terms of shock value, I mean, like I was the most shocked in this episode. I think it should be probably top half for that. And the plot does get progressed. I'm really trying to think about it. What do you guys think? I'll let you guys go because I need to like process where I think I'm gonna put it.
I'm sitting at like above Confidence Man. So the top three are Walkabout Pilot and Confidence Man. Could I put it above the pilot? Very easily. I think this is such a roller coaster. So I'm somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I would. I probably put it above the pilot. Still below Walkabout. Like the stuff about Jack is really good, as opposed to like sometimes when the flashback stuff isn't always as good, but the reveals about the island are really good. Or like, you know, like sometimes one half of the story that's being told is kind of just okay. But like, I think the Jack stuff is really good. And then the stuff that's happening on the island is also really good. Like we get multiple wild reveals. Again, like just that mystery of the island. What is happening? Where are they? Like going back to Charlie in the very beginning, where are we? Like, I think it advances so much. I would put it at number 2.
I feel like if it wasn't a Jack-centric episode, it would go above Confidence Man. But because it is, and it's the second one about Jack, and we still don't have as much information as some of the other people, and with everything else that went on during the episode that left us hanging on a whole bunch of stuff, it's got to go like right below Confidence Man.
Kristin?
These last 2 episodes, y'all have blown me away. I am so not on the same page here. So if we remember from our last episode when we were doing Raised by Another, I put Raised by Another very high up, where you guys did not. So obviously I lost that battle, kind of like Michael did with White Rabbit. So for me, I'm looking at All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues is underneath Raised by Another, just because Raised by Another, hold on, I'll get there. I'll get to the reasoning. Raised by Another left us with so like, what on earth? Versus All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. For me, if you think about context in this episode, it's mostly running through a jungle. It's mostly like there's not really much building from this as them trying to figure out where Charlie is. Obviously, the big reveal is at the end with Charlie saying they wanted Claire, Charlie being dead and then alive, the location of this metal thing in the floor. So for me, there wasn't as much happening for me in this episode. But knowing that where we rank the other ones, I'm gonna have to put it at 5.
I'm gonna I'm gonna say fourth as well. I think that's right below Confidence Man as well. I think there's a lot of important stuff, and so I'll say
We've
that.
got 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Go for it.
That's actually funny.
We have a top 10 now. Are we just going to continue with the top 10?
Ooh, we could, yeah, I mean, we could just do top 10 just because I feel like otherwise the list is going to get insanely long.
Oh, yeah.
Are the future episodes going to get into
Yeah,
the
I
top
mean, I
10?
think we could probably put it like we could probably mention where it's going, but like so people know where we're ranking them, but only focus on top 10, like major.
Yeah.
Or like rank it just season by season.
Yeah.
And then like an overall top 10. Yeah.
The important thing is that we love this episode and it's about Jack, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, there's a lot of stuff in it. I just feel like I just felt there was more. We were getting more from Raised by Another, and like even House of the Rising Sun. I feel like we're getting more than what we're actually getting in this episode. I know, like it's a fantastic episode. Don't get me wrong, but I feel as far as the information that we're getting, the stuff that we're being led as an audience, that we're not really getting much other than the very end here. And so, like for other episodes, like the pilot or Confidence Man, or you know what I mean, where we got a lot of stuff beginning to end, we're only getting that here in the ending.
Yeah.
I think we were getting stuff every single minute of this episode. We can agree to disagree.
We were chasing letters and running through the jungle. It was literally the last 15 minutes of this episode.
You also get the Saeed and Sawyer like reconciliation.
Well, Sawyer wasn't shirtless, so I don't approve.
You get Locke sending Michael on a wild goose chase because he can't manipulate Michael. You get why, like you get, as much as it is a Jack episode, like it ties very much into the last Jack episode. Like those are two puzzle pieces that very much fit together, so it makes sense to have them close together when we have them. I think it's
Listen,
great.
you already won the battle. I'm just putting my 2 cents in there. So this is another white rabbit for me.
Did we end up so it's below Confidence Man? Was that the final placement?
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So, like, do we want to recap like where we're at? So,
Yeah. So our top 10 is number 1, Walkabout. Number 2, The Pilots Part 1 and 2. Number 3 is Confidence Man. Number 4, All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. Number 5 is House of the Rising Sun. Number 6 is Solitary. Number 7 is Raised by Another. Number 8 is White Rabbit. Number 9, Tabula Rasa. And number 10, The Moth.
All right.
So after the next episode, somebody's getting kicked off the top 10 list.
Oh, that's so sad.
Or not.
Well, right. It's either gonna
maybe
be The Moth or the new episode.
Very possible.
Yeah. We'll have to see. But yeah, so we'll have to see what happens after the mid-season finale. So with that, we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.
Fuck John Locke.
All right, we're here for another Tribe of Nerds after Jake, the spoiler section of our episode. All the best Cowboys have daddy issues. I cannot spit that out today. And so with that, we are going to jump into some spoilers. So if you have not seen the episode, get out. Goodbye. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Let's go. Move it. You should be gone, and we're going. So here we go. All the best Cowboys have daddy issues. Didn't have a problem with saying it there. So much to unpack here. Where are we starting?
One thing that I want to like jokingly start with is that Jack is clearly the referenced cowboy with the daddy issue, as noted by the way we flash back to his daddy issues.
Yeah.
But that's also Claire's daddy.
It is. It is.
He also has daddy issues.
But also Locke has daddy issues.
Locke has daddy issues. Sawyer has daddy issues.
Sawyer has daddy
Kate
issues.
has daddy issues. Which one of them doesn't have daddy
right.
issues?
So all of them could be the best.
Hurley has daddy issues.
Everybody has parent issues. All of the parents in this show suck.
They all do. They suck so bad. Also, isn't this the first time? This is the first time that Walt says his other dad, Brian. So I don't think that even Jake realized that, which we of course know that loser.
He gets to be a worse character at some point.
Oh, he's definitely a worse character. And I'm gonna bring up because I mean, Kevin, you're on the whole like fuck John Locke thing. I get you. I'm gonna be eventually coming because this moment's leading up to it because we see the hatch, which we don't know is a hatch. We just see metal that on here right now. We know that that is going to turn into the hatch. We know that that hatch is going to become a huge part of this show, especially the finale of this season. They want to try and go hide in the hatch. They've blown it up with dynamite. We see the hatch, become kind of there's a whole nother thing. We realize the hatch is also not the only hatch. Although Jake was like spot on here. He was like some underground thing. And I'm like, I hate you so much for being right sometimes.
I hate it when he's right.
I know, I hate it so much. Like, I was definitely not envisioning these things when I was watching this for the first time, so it sucks. But I mean, also, I don't think he understands how crucial that this, part is going to be, especially, and then knowing that there are so many other stations out there as well. So I am going to jump on my hate for Locke early, just for Kevin. This, of course, leads to Boone's death, and I am very much a Boone fan.
Foreshadowed by his own calling out of the red shirts while he's carrying the red shirt.
Yeah, and how they always die. They always die. So yeah, with that, I'm it's setting us up for this, and I don't want it to happen. Every time I watch the first season, I know it's coming, and it's horrendous.
That's the thing, is that like when I'm rewatching it, I can already see like the selfishness and the hubris that like leads to him getting Boone killed. So like it already annoys me. Like it already bothers me. Like I don't find much redeeming about him.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's coming. It's coming.
And I mean, even if he didn't do that, like I am a Jack. Like I really am. Like
yeah.
Jack makes sense to me. Like Jack's decision making makes sense to me. Like Locke's decision making does not. So
yeah. Of course we get more with Ethan, and you hear Charlie at the end saying they. We know that they means not just one or two people, it is a whole group, the others that we're going to get to.
A whole village
of people, if you will.
Which is different than the other village.
Yeah, lots of so many things. But yeah, I mean, even, and that's coming up in the finale, that, Danielle's going to come in, the others are coming, which is when we're going to really kind of get to that fruition. So yeah, it's Ethan we're going to get into, which we talked about, Raised by Another. If you watch that spoiler section, we know that Ethan, we're going to get a lot from Ethan here. He is over there as a doctor, with other Juliet, which we'll get into. Gregg pointed out. Juliet. But yeah, I mean, we're getting a lot of little bits here and there, which again, I hate that Jake's picking up on a lot of them, but
I mean, it's cool to see that like the breadcrumbs really are there because he's picking up on it. So like a lot of people will hate on the show and say that it was just made up, like they didn't know what they were doing, but it is fun to see that like, no, the breadcrumbs are there because like, here's this person watching it for the first time who is picking up on them.
Right. For sure. We were just all not there with where Jake is at.
We were just all so like enamored. We had a whole week in between to like go off on crazy tangents and like go down rabbit holes and think things that ended up not being true, that like we kind of ended up blaming some of that on the writers when like actually the writers were doing a good job.
They were spot on. Yeah. Yeah. Also we see Walt here. He mentions Brian, which we're going to get to. He's also playing backgammon, which we already know about the light and the dark that we've talked about in other previous spoiler sections. He mentions, you owe me $20,000, and Hurley mentions, yeah, you'll get it, which will lead up to when Hurley wins the lottery, which they haven't brought up yet. But also another thing too, Walt and we know that later on we're going to find out that Walt is special. And so I need a 4 and a 3. I need a 4 and a 3. And he jumps them and it comes out of 4 and 3. I need double sixes, and so we're not realizing yet just where that special is, but we know where it.
I liked that you called attention to it, but Jake didn't pick up on that.
Right. So.
Yeah, because even like, my other dad Brian said that I was the luckiest person he ever knew. Like,
yeah,
and like, we also know from that conversation that like actually Brian is a little creeped out by how lucky, Walt is. So.
Yeah.
Oh, Walt.
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 Also going back into our numbers, I only picked up on a couple. Obviously the 4 from the dice there. And I heard them actually slay the 8 hours of deer hunting here. But Greg, there was a lot more. Tell them what other numbers that we missed and that they probably missed.
These ones were hidden again. These ones were hidden really well. You've got, again, with the die where he was playing backgammon or Walt. He blows on the cup with the die in it 4 times before each time he rolls the exact number he needs. There's 4 clues from the late tape on Charlie's hand. And then Jack pounds on Charlie's chest 23 times before he gives up.
It seemed so excessive in the moment, but like the fact that they made it be 23 is like, oh, well,
Right.
all right. There was a reason it was excessive.
Right. But also, like, you definitely have to be counting that to figure out that was the number.
And there
I'm
was
just cur- Oh, go
there
ahead.
was going to be one more number in there, but they took it out. They changed the script apparently right before production, and where he's talking, or Jack's talking to Christian, saying, "You call it." Christian turns around, "I'm the chief of surgery." It's 3:23, time of death, and then they stare at each other instead of what we got, which was
Yeah.
a lot of nothing.
A lot of nothing. But also, I mean, Kevin pointed out that why not make it 4:23 at that point? 8:23, like any of those times. But
Make it 15:23. Oh, wait. 3:23 would be 15:23.
Oh.
Time.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right, we got screwed on that one.
Let's also take a moment to appreciate how many times poor Dominic Monaghan had to die, had to like live through a death scene.
Yeah.
This is the first of many.
First of many. But also, we were worried because which we're going to get to, guys. If you're going to comment on our stuff, please comment. We love it. We want to read those comments. We want to hear you guys following along with us. But if you're going to do spoiler ones, put spoiler alert and then like 5,000.
Spoiler?
Right.
Way
There's so
down.
much there. Yeah, way down. Because we did have a comment, which great insight from that comment. So we appreciated that comment very much so. But it brought up about the looking glass and where Charlie does actually end up dying. But even with Jake reading that, he still was like, he had probably one of the biggest reactions that I've seen him do in this show so far, of when he, like, his face was like,
right?
So
our sweet little Jake is so controlled,
we talked about his good memory. He obviously did not have that good of a memory, because he would have been like, wait, what about the looking glass? You know what I mean? So
right.
Yeah.
He was very shocked.
Yes. What else we got?
Let's see. Sawyer and Saeed kiss and make up.
Do they ever though? Really? But
Well, they'll end up being on the sub together.
Well, wow.
And Saeed will sacrifice himself to save.
Talk about you
others.
like grasping at straws here, yo.
This is the beginning of Jack making horrible decisions for the group.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Jack is gonna suck, Mr. Jack over there.
Listen, Jack makes the best decisions that he can make in the situation.
Sure.
He can't help that there's a lot of other factors going on that he doesn't know about.
Sure.
He doesn't know about the other. Like,
Well, maybe he should listen to Locke, because Locke seems to know.
Locke doesn't know shit.
Locke
Locke's
has
making
it
it up as he
locked
goes.
in. No, the Locke hate train is coming around the bend for me right now. It's knocking on the door.
I mean, I will say Jack is very much in the like faith versus science. He's very much anti-faith. Like he makes no loops of faith.
Yeah.
So like
you have to have a boundary, but you have to have a little bit of both for sure.
Yeah. So like you can fault him for that, but like that's the point of the character, is that like he takes no like.
Yeah.
Like what is right in front of him, that's what it is.
Yeah, 100%. You brought up Sawyer, my main man. Love that man. But we do see a something here with Walt and Sawyer. And they bring up, like, did you ever think he used a fake name? And he's like, well, that's stupid, but we already know that Sawyer's using a fake name. But in the future, spoiler alert, Walt changes his name when they get off the island. So yeah, joke's on you, Walt. Also,
well,
met Walt, and
Walt is also not happy off the island, right?
Correct.
So like this also foreshadows that as well, of like he's going to be living under a fake name, which he thinks is stupid, and he's not happy with.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I mean that's pretty much all the spoilers, because obviously we don't want to harp on them too much, because once we do actually get to this episode, it's going to bring up even more spoilers. So we could really go down into town like we say every time that we do one of these. But yeah, we're saving some of it. So those are the spoilers for All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. Were there anything else that you guys could think of?
We were talking about Star Trek at the very beginning, the red shirt. Yeah. Wait, we forgot to mention that Terry O'Quinn was on Star Trek. He was an admiral before he got demoted to a red shirt for being a horrible leader.
Oh, he was a horrible leader there too. Interesting. Consistent character traits across.
This is all you get. You get this one moment. But yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, no, a lot of great moments in this episode. So a lot of things are gonna start happening. Like literally, and now it's like the ball is rolling. I'm so excited for Jake. Like
that's the thing, is that like I forgot, because I rewatched this like a year ago. So I hadn't watched it since 2010. I forgot how quickly things start to move in season 1. Like the rest of season 1 is like, he's not prepared. Like that's the end of season 1 is the boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. So I really think that Raised by Another is like the blow on the rock, or the push of the rock, if you will, that like starts us into this like big, huge downward spiral. So yeah, very excited for Jake. Keep tuning in with us. Like, subscribe, put those comments in there. If they are spoilers, put the massive spoiler alert there. Ask us questions. We'd be happy to answer any questions on the podcast that you guys might have. So yeah, or reach out to us, message us, email, whatever you need to do. But that is our end of our spoiler section for All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. So we'll see you guys next time for Tribe of Nerds After Jake.
Bye.